Visit our website at dossteam.com. Now let's join the podcast.
Episode, is this 14, Joel Bennett?
14, Ronnie Dawes, 14. How you doing, sir?
Hey, man, I have missed you, and I've gotten a lot of messages of people like, man, where's the podcast at, guys? The last really 6 to 8 weeks have probably been the busiest of my career ever. Best and busiest, crazy, awesome stuff happening. So happy to be back. We're going to get back on course every couple of weeks, every 2 to 3 weeks, I think. I don't want to overload you guys with stuff, but I do want you to have some stuff that you can resort to, listen to, and get some good stuff out of. So anyway, Joel, how's it going, man?
Man, things have been fantastic, but fantastically busy, just like you. I've been going back and forth from East Coast to West Coast and just chasing myself, which is great. You and I have passed in the air several times.
Seattle, and Orlando, and then now you just got home from Vegas, correct?
Yeah, I was in Vegas for 10 days, and now you're heading to Vegas. It's just, but that's good. That busy is can be good and bad, but in our case right now, it's good, right?
Yeah, for sure. As long as you're doing productive stuff, not just spinning your wheels, and I know you are. So I am too. Well, it's good to be back on here, man. I've definitely missed you, and it's great seeing you yesterday. And so, what you got up your sleeve for us today, Dr. Bennett?
Well, I don't have anything to ask you because nothing's changed in our world and nothing's upside down right now. So, how you been?
Nothing has changed at all in the world. I mean, not yesterday, not at all. So a lot of change in the world, obviously. Some people see it as good, some people see it as bad, but hey, you know what? It is what it is. It's a system that we have been utilizing for the last couple hundred years or more. So you win some, you lose some, but you look up and you keep moving forward, and we make the best out of everything. And so, I'm not a political guy, you know that. You've heard me, I don't get into it very much, but I feel like some people are happy that they feel that their voices were heard as opposed to there being a continual system that tends to seem to promote certain types of people or certain, certain perspectives, the political machine, career politicians, all that stuff. So, of course, there's people that are divided, but I think at this point right now, we get to move forward and to see what we can create personally in our own life and take personal responsibility for that. I've always said that no person coming into office is going to fix our life. Nobody's going to change us. That we have to look at our own life and decide what things need to improve, what we can work on, and what we can take personal responsibility for. And at the end of the day, that's all we've got, bud. That's it. Jim Rohn, who you guys know I've listened to so many times, he used to have this thing he called his not much theory. And it didn't matter if it was a Democrat or a Republican, that not much was going to change. Now, of course, we don't know that, obviously, coming up, and we never do. But typically looking back, it seemed that in some cases not much has changed. But we're still here, I think, in the greatest country in the world, and we're free. And let's hope and pray that it stays that way, and we can still do what we do and what we love, and live life with our families and the people we care about. So that's my plug for today. And if that was enough, let's hang up and we're done. What do you think, Joel?
Well, I do agree with you on several things you said right there. One of the things that really struck me yesterday was I am so glad I live in the United States of America. I am so glad that we have a country that we do have a voice. We do have the ability to go and choose the candidate of our choice. It may not work out in every case that we want it to, from the president down to our local councilman, whatever it may be. But you know what? We didn't wake up this morning and the government say, here's who you elected, and tell us what we're going to get. We get to say in this country. We do have freedoms. We do have a constitution. And I'm so thankful. There are so many countries in this world that you're so under the system and you're so under the life that the country gives you. And we've got freedom. And I'm thankful for that.
Yeah, for sure. I think freedom in a lot of areas that we often take for granted. And they used to say that if you take the things that you've gotten for granted, the things that you've been given, get taken. And I think that can be very true. So anyway, I don't want to spend much time on this. I've avoided politics overall for the past, especially year. And I typically do. I know there are big issues that people see that are on the front, but I'm going to not make my life about focusing on politics. I'm going to focus on just building people and lifting people and trusting that people will, from that, go out and make the best of their life and not look for somebody else to fix it or do it for them. So anyway, with that being said, anything particular that you want to kind of attack today?
Definitely, definitely. And on a final note of that, I think that the things that you do say in this podcast and in your other teachings and to NASA and everywhere that you go is it isn't a political thing. It is building leaders and pulling the leaders that are inside each of us out. And that's not a party affiliation. That's not a political thing at all. That's the thing. You have the ability to make your life better, and you, Ronnie Doss, give us the tools to do that, and we thank you for that. I want to talk today about how people are wired differently, and I guess you could apply this to every situation in life, but I, I know that my wife and I are wired differently. Our sleeping patterns are different. Our processing is different. What she sees as one problem to me is so trivial, and vice versa. We're all wired differently. How do we, in the circle that we live in, whether it's our family, our coworkers, the employees that we have, how can we help make the differences in our group work better?
Well, I think the only way you're ever going to make anything better is to bring your best to it. And if I stop giving my best to something just because somebody has a different opinion than me, then I have a real problem. Then their perspective and their opinion overpowers my commitment to be the best that I can be and be a leader. Leadership is never about having the approval of everyone. It's never about always having the approval of your spouse. And it's not that my wife, Jen, always looks for my approval. I think it comes down to trusting a process and trusting that, yes, everybody is wired differently. It's great to find some people that are on your side, that think the way you do, that want to have the same things that you do and have the same vision as you. But we know in this world, in our society, in the planet that we live on right now, that's just not the case. And so if I'm working with somebody who has a very different view than me, if it imposes a problem as far as that we can't work together, I mean, at some point we'd have to make a decision that, hey, we're not going in the same direction. But I think just because someone has a different opinion on something doesn't mean that should in any way negate the fact that we have a goal, an organizational goal, or an overall objective. If my objective is to serve the community, serve the nation, serve the world, if that's my job, just because somebody has a different view from me on something like politics, something like religion, something like education, something like different views, it doesn't mean that we can't work together. And if people that believe that just because somebody has a different view than you, that you can't work with them, I would say you're a bit narrow-minded. I would think that you think from a scarcity mindset and that you think that you're right often. I think one of the things that we have to lay down as leaders is oftentimes our need to be right, because ultimately being right has a lot to do with how we see ourselves. If I work hard and do research and learn as much as I can to give me a wiser perspective on life and how to serve the planet better, then good for me. But not everybody else is going to approach it the same way that I do. But one of the things that I know is that we all need each other on some level. I'm reading a book right now called Spaceman by Mike Massimino, and he said when he went back to MIT to get his PhD, he said he had gone and done his thesis before and got shot down so bad that one of the guys that was on the board of the thesis that was looking to support him and kind of mentor him and hope that he would do well came to him afterwards and said, look, man, we usually let people come back in 6 months and retake this, but if you don't want to take it again, you don't have to. We understand. Basically, it was that bad. And so he leaves kind of with his tail between his legs going, I don't know if I can do this again. But he goes back over to MIT. He decides later he's going to commit to it because he actually met an astronaut that had worked with NASA. And the astronaut said, man, I went to MIT. That place kicked my tail. He goes, it almost got the best of me. And he thought, man, here's an astronaut who went there who's saying, yeah, it almost got the best of me. And so Mike said, you know what, I'm going to go back. I'm going to give it another try. Well, he goes back, bumps into a guy there who says, who was your team? Great question, right? Who was your team that helped you study and asked you the questions that you were going to be asked when you went in front of the board giving your thesis? And he said, I didn't have a team. And he goes, dude, then you studied not knowing what to study and not know how to articulate your ideas. And so then Mike's like, wow. And he said, we'll put together a team. We'll just start dogging you with questions and see how you can answer them. And so Mike says that he goes with this team. They're drilling him with questions on how that he can back up his thesis with research and how to articulate ideas and concepts. He goes back in and the next time and nails it, gets his PhD from MIT. And he said, one of the things that I learned, even when it comes to knowledge, is that you need a team around you. And sometimes,
Yeah.
guys, we grow the best when we have someone around us with a very different view. If you have a different view than someone and you don't want them in your life because they don't see it the way that you see it, then you're narrow-minded. You're not going to grow. Take their perspective, look at it, defend their side for a moment. Pretend that you had to defend it. At least that way you get some grounding in maybe why they have the perspective that they do. And then from that standpoint, move forward. And if you can, move forward together. Together. Not look, Ronald Reagan said it when he was talking to the United Nations when he gave this speech. Here's what he said. He said, I often think of how our views would change if we were experiencing an outside threat, not from this world. How quickly our differences would subside. And, when you have a pretty big view like that, you start thinking, yeah, we're all human, regardless of education, politics, skin color, whatever. Yes, some people have different views. Yes, some people aren't as conservative. Yes, some people aren't as liberal, whatever. But we're all in this thing together. And if we don't start acting like that, there's always going to be this fragmented divisiveness fighting against each other. And, it doesn't get us anywhere great. All we get is more and more divisiveness. You got one person. I heard it the other day that when you look at the left wing and the right wing, you got to remember that both wings are connected to the same bird. And I just think I think it's smart. Anyway, why am I?
That's
on
good.
This? So yeah, there you go.
Hey, no, you're exactly you're right down the road where we're going, and I love it. I think we need to look then also at the group mission that we have in life, and that's your big picture, and then your personal mission that you have in life and what your specific calling is. Tell me about the group mission, say the Mars mission right now, for example, because that's what you're in the middle of right now with all these guys at NASA. That is a group mission. There are how many different divisions and parts to that are making that happen, but they're all on one mission. They're all on one, and each guy might be doing his different job, and it might be a different branch of the tree, but it's all one mission. Talk to me about a group mission.
Well, group mission, family mission. Yes, NASA's on a different mission, and to say I'm in the middle of it, I think on some level I am, but on some levels I'm not. I'm an outsider. I go in and have the opportunity to speak to these brilliant-minded people and share insights that I've learned. But they're the ones that are in there doing the work with their head down for this overall mission, which I think is a very inspiring one. I think that, and I've said this to the groups at NASA many times, that I think the world needs NASA. I think our country needs NASA. When John F. Kennedy gave the moon speech back at Rice Stadium in Houston, Texas, he said, we go to the moon not because it's easy, but because it's hard, and it will require the best of us to achieve it. And he then went on to say that it's a goal that we intend to take on, that we're not going to postpone, and one that we intend to win. And the country was united behind that. And just so you know, that if we don't have a big goal to get united behind, man, it's easy to just get caught up in our own little worlds, focusing on me, and that's divisive over time. I share this statement that I learned years ago that when you're thinking only about you, I call it the disease of me. It's been called that, but it was the mindset of me turns into the disease of me. The disease of me turns into the defeat of us. And when you have the disease of me, what you say to yourself is, I am the person amongst objects, versus I am a person amongst people. And you might be saying, well, I'm amongst crazy people, but either way, you're not the person. You're not, we're all unique, but we're all in this together. And so when you're together and you have this bigger goal, it's easier to pull together and remind yourself, what are we really working for? If you don't know your why, every obstacle that gets in your way is going to frustrate you. But when you really know your why, every obstacle becomes almost an opportunity to see what you can do, what you can create. Yes, going to Mars is a huge mission. For Donald Trump, yes, winning the presidency, it's a huge mission. For some people, building a new church, it's a huge mission. For some people, getting in shape when maybe they've gotten out of shape, it's a big mission, and you have to be willing to give your very best to it. Or else you're not going to give your best, you're not going to produce good results, and then because you're all thinking about you, you're going to have to find somebody to blame. And that just means you're carrying some anger, some energy. And I don't care if you're blaming somebody else, you're still carrying negative energy, and it's going to eat you up from the inside. When you just decide in life, I give my best to it regardless of the circumstances, hey, I'm going to win. And Joel, for the family dynamic of the organizational goal, you mentioned in the beginning, you and Sandy having different views on different things, but you're committed to the overall win. Look at the benefits that have come from the boys growing up in your family. You've got phenomenal children, incredible sons. I mean, I look to you and go, man, if my girls are as kind, compassionate, as grounded as yours, and as mature as your sons are when they're the age that your boys are, then I've won. Then Jen and I have won. And I say that's a big goal for us. And so we've created an atmosphere in our home where hopefully that will happen. And you have to be clear on what that is. If not, every distraction comes along, pulls you off course, so to speak, and now you're down a road you didn't plan on being on. And what I have learned about distractions is that they don't really distract you. What distractions do is simply reveal your deepest commitment. And if you don't have a goal that you are most deeply committed to, you're going to struggle in life. I don't care. You're going to struggle. And then you can't hate on people. Well, you can, but it doesn't serve you. Hating on people that do have specific goals and that are winning and that are making it happen. And so this is a leadership talk because all of us, especially right now, change is going on. I think some people look at it as a sunset. Some people look at it as a dawn. And either way, it's a new day. You create in it what you want to create. So there you go, bud.
Man, that's good. One thing I want to pull on what you just said was talking about obstacles in your life. You take a look at like an obstacle course that some people choose to do on a regular basis. I like to watch people do it, and I think it's very intriguing, and I would love to do some of those Spartan races and things like that. Mm-hmm. I need to get in shape like you were talking about a little bit more to do that. But for some people, the obstacles are. You look at it and it's so huge. Other people look at it like, no, that's the only way I can get to this finish line is through that obstacle, up and over, around, whatever that case may be, or take climbing a rock wall. If I want to get to the top and ring that bell, these aren't obstacles. These are handholds. These are footholds. These are things that I can use. So it's a matter of perspective in that, correct?
Yeah, I mean, the bigger the obstacle, the more there's a draw on you from this beautiful universe that God created for you to think differently and then behave differently. What was Einstein said, you can't solve a problem with the same mind that created it. And so what that means is when you have this obstacle in front of you, if you want to keep thinking the same way that you've always been thinking, you can, but chances are you're not going to get to the top of the wall and ring the bell or whatever that is. You've got to look at it from the approach, I believe an abundant approach, which is there's really an infinite number of ways to solve just about any problem. And when people say, "Oh, how is that true?" I say, "Well, how many different ways are there to improve a marriage?" Well, they say it was really not a limit, but that's not how most of us think. Most of us think, well, you can try this, try that, and then that's it. If it doesn't work, it's done. Okay, well, you can look at it through that lens, or you can say, hey, there's an infinite number of ways to improve this, and I'm not going to stop until I do. Now, it doesn't mean everybody in the party is seeing it that way, but from your standpoint, giving your best to it because you see that there's a bigger goal in front of you, I think that's what pulls the best out of us. And you said it was a neat little phrase, and thanks for saying it at the beginning of the podcast, that, I'm pulling the leader kind of out of you all that listen to this. I'm continually setting goals that pull the leader out of me. You mentioned NASA. When I went there the first time, I share it with every one of the teams I'm in front of. It scared me to death. I was nervous. I was afraid everybody that I sat in front of was going to be, this brilliant-minded person that wanted hard evidence behind anything that I shared, like calculations. And it just, I created this huge thing in my mind, but, I had to overcome that. But in setting these bigger goals, you get to see what you can become. And I hope that I'm not the same guy 5 years from now that I am right now. Because I can look back at where I was 5 years ago. I never would have imagined that all the things that are going on in my life right now would be going on. So many different doors have opened, so many opportunities, so many people calling and asking for different types of things that are putting a draw on me. I can't resist those things. I've got to be open to those challenges. And I would recommend that anybody listening to this would say, hey, the only way that I can get better is to put a challenge in front of me that draws the best out of me. And here's what you've got to get. That doesn't mean you're going to be comfortable. It's going to mean you're going to get frustrated. It's going to mean that you're not going to believe that you can do it. It's going to mean that there are times when you talk down to yourself, that other people might say stuff to you that you don't want. You're a human being. Stop holding yourself to a perfect standard of, oh my gosh, if I'm uncomfortable or angry at myself or feeling disappointed, that means I'm supposed to quit or pull back. That's not what it means at all. Maybe all those feelings simply mean that you're doing something, that you're on the right track to achieve something you've never achieved. If everybody avoids discomfort, that means they're going to just try to stay comfortable. That just simply means they're not stretching. That's the truth of it. They're not stretching. Get down, do push-ups. If you can do 3, great. But if I asked you then to do 4, you got to get comfortable. But it's not between that 3rd and 4th one. It's not until the 3rd or the 4th one that you actually grow. It's not until you start hurting and you start feeling discomfort that you grow physically, but also the same thing with your mind. What they've seen, I've seen psychologists that have done studies, Joel, and I'm done. Psychologists have done studies that when you hire, they've seen people that were hired to be a London taxi cab driver. That they've done brain scans on them before they hire them to learn all the routes, to be able to drive around London and all the different routes that they have. And they, of course, there's GPS and so forth, but you start to see things. It starts embedding it into your mind and then into your unconscious, where you know your way around. A person's brain actually changes, and so the more you learn, your brain adapts. And so, if I were to ask you, what are you doing today that's going to change your brain for the better? What are you going to do? And so that means having a bigger goal. You can't just keep doing what you're doing. So,
Good.
Was that good?
That is good stuff. Yeah, no, you're following the course here. I'm loving it. You're going right along where I'm thinking. Secondly, with that, we're talking about obstacles and overcoming obstacles and using them to our advantage. If I complete a goal, I need to have another one. I am at a point in my life, as you know, we talked about my family. My oldest son just graduated last spring. My twins are graduating college in this coming spring. That's going to be a big page turner for me. That was a goal of mine, was to get my kids to that point where they're self-sufficient and they're men who are doing their life mission. And I then need to find a different purpose at that point. Now, I'm always going towards a main goal in life, being good to people, all these general missions. But I need a more specific mission once that mission is done. How do I find that purpose when I've been on the first purpose so long? What am I looking for? What are the triggers that I need to go, maybe I need to lean this way. Maybe I need to not travel as much now. Maybe I need to find something that I'm passionate about. Where do I go next? What do I need to start looking for?
Well, I think there's two ways I want to approach this. This is a phenomenal question. And guys, all of you that are listening, I don't know that some of you may have met Joel, especially I know you were in Seattle with me at an event. A few people listened there from where we were. But Joel's family is phenomenal. His wife, one of the most amazing people ever. One of the reasons that my wife Jen got into kickboxing was because his wife Sandy. And so just incredible people, service-minded. So there's two things that I want you to get. Those of you that are listening, maybe a little younger. If you're a little younger than Joel and your kids are, like Jen and I, Addison's 7, Kendi's 3. Obviously, it's a different season. I think that as a younger person, what we want to do is we want to look at what Joel is saying and going, hey, wait a minute, pages do turn. There are times where you go and, people come up an empty nester, so to speak, and all of a sudden now they're like, nobody's in the house. What do we do? We've been making it about them so long. One of the things that I am big on, Joel, and you and I have talked about it, is that I'm big on parents not making everything about the kids, because I think that's a tough thing. Now, you guys have done that in some ways, but you still have awesome things that you love to do. Sandy loves doing what she does. You love doing what you do. But, I've seen people that their focus is just the kids, doing for the kids, making sure that the kids have. And in some ways, and this is not in your family at all, you got amazing kids, as I've said, but, it can sometimes breed this entitlement attitude. And I think what we want to do is we just want to raise our kids in a way of them being really responsible for their passions and their purposes. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is to really genuinely express ours in our life. One of the things that I love about the girls is they see Jen doing kickboxing stuff all the time and how passionate she is about fitness and now, speaking and doing what she's doing in front of these rooms. I think that's a great example. It is. And I think that that's what we want as parents, is to all along the way that we're helping kids find their passion. And you guys have done that really, really well. So I think in some ways, Joel, along the way, a younger person, I would bet that you'd probably have some advice for them saying, hey, don't wait till the kids get out of the house to start kind of planning for that season to come, because it will. Everything, seasons change, right? And we don't want to, and I say this, I've been in leadership trainings before and had people share that I'm 60 years old now and I don't know what to do with my life. It's always been about the kids, and they got them married and grandkids, but I've heard moms or grandmothers say, I haven't done that much for me. We don't want that. We don't want to run into that at the end of our life. So thinking of that in a way that there's really good balance, because you don't want to leave the kids this impression that the world is going to do for them. Because I think all of us could say that at this point, many of us who thought life was going to be a little easier, a little different, that life starts showing you that you're not guaranteed anything. Nobody owes you anything, and you've got to work for it. And Joel, your sons work really hard for it, great students. But we have to nurture that in our families. So that's one approach. The second approach is where you're at now, Joel, when you're saying, hey, we've got to get this back to us and to me. I think, a few things is number one, I would tell, and this isn't specifically for you, Joel, but I would tell anybody, physical health is a big part of it. Why? Because when you feel better, you then do better. And even though it's hard to work out and train and do all that stuff all the time, I think that's a big thing that all of us need to incorporate into our life. I don't care if you're 20 or 60. I think that we need to make sure that we're staying healthy. Why? Because it does so many good things for your brain. Number two, when your energy levels are up, you make better decisions. When my energy levels are up, I'm going, all right, what can we do? What do you want to do? And Jen, because she's always bouncing off the walls anyway, she's like, yeah, let's go do it. Let's go hike. Let's go outside. Let's go for a walk. Let's go do, there's always something to do. I think that's really cool. Now, you need to find that balance, make sure you're getting rest and all that stuff, because that's a big part of it. But it's nice to feel like doing stuff. I think when we don't feel like doing stuff, we just sit around. It's easier to just sit around and continue sitting around. It's harder to get something in motion that's been sitting for a while. And so what we want to do with physical health, that then leads to the mental health. And from that, you've got to look at what rituals you need to create in your life, habits, things that you want to do that serve you, and if you're married, the person that you really want to serve and be with. You want to make that relationship better. I'll be completely transparent here. I will. Jen and I have a great marriage. We do. But when I was traveling a lot, and when I say a lot, 10 cities a month speaking, and I did that for a few years, 8 to 10, that's hard. I was on the road 18, 20 days. To come home, I was worn out. I was tired. I wasn't wanting to do anything. And you know that. You know what that's like. So what do we have to do? Well, we've got to have conversation with the significant other and say, what can we do together to fuel the fire between us? Because I can look back at how Jen and I were. We'd only been married a few years, and yes, things were good. We loved each other. But now, Joel, our relationship is far beyond where it used to be, because now we have incorporated much better balance between what I want for my career, but also keeping the main thing. And the main thing between she and I is our connection, our communication, our intimacy, all that stuff, because our girls are growing up in a home where they're going to feel the spirit. They pick up on the energy that's in the house, or the atmosphere. You've heard me talk about atmosphere. Atmosphere is important. And if Jen and I are connected and we feel good and all that stuff, man, it creates a better environment for the kids too. But since it's just you, like you're saying with Sandy, I would say it's always worth those conversations of what can we do together. I know you guys just went on a trip together, all that stuff, but I'd say continually doing that. When I was in Kentucky this past weekend, I'll be done, I was asking the pastor, they'd been married 36 years. I said, what's the secret? Both of them at the same time, Joel, said date nights. Couple times a week sometimes. And they said they've got, they have grandkids now. It's tough, but they, that they had family around who they could pass the kids off to and say, hey, we're going on date nights. Those kind of things matter, man. You can do movies, you can do dinners, you can go out dancing, you can just go out and sit at the library together. You can do something, but have some time that's non-negotiable, just you time. I think if you do that, you sow those seeds in the relationship, good things come out of it.
I think you're right. And I think that we can take it all the way back to the beginning of the conversation, talking about your wiring. We're all wired with a purpose, and I believe it's a God-given purpose and a mission in our life. And we can always be heading in that direction. But along the way, we have jobs to do. And we have kids to raise right. We have we need to earn a living to take care of the needs of our family. And once you accomplish different things, as long as you're still moving forward to the way you were wired, even though it's different than every other person in the world, if you're still moving towards that mission, I believe that we will find what that purpose is and find what that mission is, and create the life that we need and the life that we love. And we just continue to press forward and move forward. And when you're in that purpose and in that passion, life is beautiful, isn't it?
It's much, much easier, my man. You know that. And here's what I would say. You said it, raise kids the right way. I'm going to give you a 1-minute soundbite. The right way for me, you guys know I'm a faith person. I'm a believer. But even in the Bible it says, train up a child in the way that they should go. The word way actually comes from the word which meant in the original, the bend. And so train up a child in the way, which meaning the bend that they had, which like the bend of a road is what makes it unique. So you train up a child according to their uniqueness, to what is their wiring. So let's go back to that wiring. Your children, as different as Addison and Kennedy are. It's funny. We've got Addison into Taekwondo. She loves it. She's very focused. But we always make the joke that Kennedy is going to be in the MMA, mixed martial arts, because she's going straight for. She's just a little puncher, kicker, whatever. But different personalities, wired very different. So I can't raise them the exact same way. I'm not going to. I'm not that naive. Having a team, you can't speak to everybody on the team the exact same way. Yes, you want to be positive, yes, whatever, but you're going to have to meet them where they're at, lift them to another level. You don't just get to stay up here all the time, because you'll miss a lot of folks. So maybe somebody in teamwork, that'll help. But here's a few things. You said raising them right. I'll give you the 3 things. This is what I've always said. I've always felt like it was my responsibility to pray for my family, protect my family, and provide for my family. Those are the 3 P's for me. When it comes to the Doss crew, that's it. Pray for my family. Speaking good words. Not just praying to God, but speaking good words, life into them with my words. Providing, obviously working hard and smart to try and provide. And that's not always been easy, going for the goal and the dream that I have to reach people. Man, there were a lot of times where I'm going, what are you doing? And there were sacrifices, Joel. I could tell you, maybe we'll talk about that next time, the sacrifices of getting the goal that you want. And then, to protect. Protecting means, you're not, if I'm questioning you, you're not gonna come spend time with my kids. You're not gonna come into my home. I guard and protect my home, and the atmosphere that's there. So anyway, that's good, bud. I hope that's enough stuff today.
Man, it's a great day. I appreciate it. It's good stuff all the way around.
Good deal, man. Well, thank you guys so much. Really appreciate you. A lot of change going on in the world, but here's the deal. Just figure out what it is you're going to be committed to, what values you want to bring to your life. Every day. Honor, trust, integrity, commitment, boldness, whatever that is for you. What are the few that you really want to bring to every situation? Stick to that. Keep working, and good stuff will happen for sure. So look forward to talking to you guys again very, very soon.
Thank you for joining today's podcast. The Like a Doss podcast is released every first and third Friday of the month. For more information, visit our website at DossTeam.com.